Hi everyone, welcome back. So, in our previous module, we learned about variables and data types. We understood what variables are, how we can declare them using var, let, and const, and we also explored different data types and type conversion. Now we are ready to move to our next module, operators and expressions. In this module, we will learn how JavaScript performs calculations, compares values, combines conditions, and evaluates different expressions. But before we start with different operators, let's first understand something very basic. What exactly is an expression? So let's start with that. Okay, let's first read what Learntagus says about an expression. An expression is any piece of code that produces a value. 2 plus 2 is an expression, it evaluates to 4. Hello plus world is an also expression, it evaluates to hello world. Operators are the symbols that combine values inside an expression. Now let's understand this in very simple terms. जब हम कहते हैं कि an expression is a piece of code that produces a value, इसका सिंपल मीनिंग है जावास्क्रिप्ट जब किसी पीस ऑफ कोड को इवैल्यूएट करती है और उसका कोई रिजल्ट मिलता है तो हम उसे एक्सप्रेशन कहते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, अगर मैं 10+5 लिखूं तो जावास्क्रिप्ट इस कैलकुलेशन को इवैल्यूएट करेगी और हमें रिजल्ट में 15 मिलेगा. सिमिलरली, अगर मैं चेक करूं 10 इज ग्रेटर देन 5 तो जावास्क्रिप्ट इसका रिजल्ट ट्रू देगी. सो एक्सप्रेशन सिर्फ कैलकुलेशन तक लिमिटेड नहीं है. इट कैन प्रोड्यूस डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ वैल्यूज डिपेंडिंग ऑन व्हाट वी आर राइटिंग. और यहीं पर ऑपरेटर्स इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाते हैं. प्लस, माइनस, मल्टीप्लाई, ग्रेटर देन, लेस देन जैसे सिंबल्स को हम ऑपरेटर्स कहते हैं और ये वैल्यूज के साथ काम करके एक्सप्रेशंस क्रिएट करते हैं. Now let's take a slightly more practical example. Since we have already learned about variables in our previous module, let's use a variable here and see how it can become part of an expression. Here I have created a variable called score and I have stored the value 85 inside it. Now when I simply use score, JavaScript evaluates that variable and gives us the value stored inside it. So we get 85 as our output. Now this is important to understand. An expression does not always have to look like a calculation. Here score itself evaluates to a value which is 85. That's why it can also be considered an expression. Now let's make this example a little more interesting. Suppose this student gets 10 bonus marks as well. So I will create another variable called bonus and store 10 in it. Now I want to calculate the total score. For that I am combining the value of score with the value of bonus. Let's run this and see the result. And we get 95 as the result. Here JavaScript takes the value stored in score which is 85 and the value stored in bonus which is 10 and evaluates score plus bonus. So score plus bonus is an expression because it produces a value 95. Now let's look at one more example from a real life situation. Imagine you are building an online shopping website. Suppose a product costs 500 rupees and a customer wants to buy two items. We can store these two values in separate variables and then use them to calculate the total price. Here, price into quantity is the expression we are using to calculate the total amount. Let's run it and see what we get. And we get 1000. JavaScript takes the value of price, which is 500, and the value of quantity, which is 2, and multiply them. So price into quantity produces the value 1000. That's why price into quantity is an expression. You can find this kind of expression in many real-world applications. For example, calculating the total price of products in an online shopping cart. Now let's look at this example one more time and understand why we call price into quantity an expression. We have two variables here, price and quantity. JavaScript takes the values stored in these variables and performs the multiplication. And after evaluating it, we get a result 1000. So, because this piece of code produces a value, it is an expression. So remember this simple definition. An expression is a piece of code that produces a value. It can be as simple as using a variable, or it can involve calculations like this one. Here price into quantity is the expression and 1000 is the value produced by that expression. We have this symbol between price and quantity. This symbol is called an operator. Operators help us to perform different operations, but we are not going to go into the different types of operators just yet. We will explore them properly in the next session. For now, just remember that operators and expressions work together to help JavaScript perform different operations and produce results. Now that we understand what is an expression, let's start learning about the operators we can use in JavaScript. We will begin with the most basic one, arithmetic operator. So let's see how operators like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division work in JavaScript.